First thing on the agenda, we're taking a look at the card Dragon's Mind from Alliance Insight. We don't have too many cards from Alliance Insight to look at, I think. They haven't published too many, but this is one of them, and it is a counter trap card. Dragon's Mind, counter trap card. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. When a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated and you control a monster with 2500 original attack or defense, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. If this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 2500 life points, set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Okay. Now, I think this card reads pretty good. The problem is that it's a trap card, period, basically, but it's a trap card that doesn't work super well in trap decks, right? Because trap decks are not the best at consistently putting out monsters. Beatrice can search that. I mean, technically, yeah, if Beatrice was still legal, Beatrice could just set an Omni Negate, basically. I don't know. I think this card sounds stronger than it is. Also, hold up. Let me check something real quick. Okay. I was just making sure that the artwork made sense because I wasn't sure. I thought Seiya Ryu or whatever it's called had like 2300 attack, but turns out it's actually okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's 2500 attack. I just had to make sure for my own sake whether I could be happy with this artwork or not. Otherwise, I would have hated the card. But it is 2500. Yeah, you okay. This is definitely a useful card. The question is, like, will you ever put this into your decks before you play cards like Solemn Judgment or Solemn Strike, which are already in not that many decks, right? Like Solemn Judgment and Solemn Strikes are good Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like we know that, but you're not putting them into many decks, especially game one, right? So only because a deck can play this card, it's still like, will they actually play it? Because at the end of the day, the problem with this card is that in order to put a monster onto the field, you have to be somewhat playing the game, right? You have to be like, you can't use this when you brick. You can't use this when your opponent stops your plays completely, all that kind of stuff. So like, but obviously it is a very, very, it's a very simple condition. There's a lot of monsters with 2500 original attack or defense, right? Like 2500 is a very common number in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm sure there will be some decks that that'll play this card. Ryziel can play it? Yeah, Ryziel can play it, but I don't think Ryziel will play it. Because if I'm playing a Ryziel deck and I know I'm going first, I would still rather play Solemn Judgment or Solemn Strike, because what if I don't draw a Ryziel monster? Then I just have another dead card in my hand. What if I only draw one Ryziel monster and my opponent uses their impermanence on my normal summon of Ice Ryziel, and then I just pass, right? Like for all these cases, there's cards like Solemn Judgment that probably do this job better, right? But it's not a bad card at all. Voiceless could play it, but they would probably rather play Judgment. I think that's a general issue with this card, right? I think there's a lot of decks that could theoretically like imagine playing this card, but they won't, because in terms of like just drawing a counter trap, Judgment is just better. However, there could also obviously be some use cases for the graveyard effect, right? Like there could be a deck where you mill a lot, right? Like for example, Tearlaments I could see Tearlaments playing one copy of this if they're playing Foolish Burial Goods already to send Salic or something. That could be something, right? Like, because Rule Colossus 2500 defense, right? So like, you know, you play one copy of this. If you ever mill it, then sure, free counter trap. Runic White Forest, yeah, free discard. You discard it for Hugin, or you send it for one of your White Forest cards, and then you get it back for free. In those kind of decks, I could see this card being like a solid one of, if you're making use of the graveyard effect consistently, right? Element already has Crime, fair enough. Yeah, a lot of those decks already have other options for counter traps. But this deck is, this card is still, it's solid. I could see it being used at some point. I don't think it's going to be like a 3 of to replace cards like Solemn Judgment. I think it would rather be like a one-off index that can access it with like Foolish Burial Goods or something like that. But it's not a bad card. And then we have NT 8000 Sirius, which is a level 8 Dark Machine. 2300 attack, 2500 defense. You can lose Dragon's Mind with it. Why does it not have to be a dragon, by the way? The card's called Dragon's Mind. Anyways. You can only use the second and third effect of this card's name once per turn. This linked card cannot be destroyed by battle. During a turn, a link monster activated an effect, quick effect. You can target a face-up card on your field and one face-up card on your opponent's field. Destroy those two cards. Okay, so it's a quick effect scrap dragon if a link monster has activated its effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, except from the field, and you control a dark link monster, you can special summon this card, but it leaves the field if it's banished. No, if it leaves the field, it is banished. The way around. Okay. It's a really good send-off nightmare. It is a dark machine. Oh yeah, that's probably it, right? Oh, that's probably what it's meant to be. It's probably meant to be Orcus support, right? Because it also works well with link monsters. So like yeah. Orcus can even recycle it, right? Because it'll banish itself, but then Orcus can put it back into the deck because it's not... Orcus are not just... they don't have to put back Orcus monsters. It's just dark machines. Yeah, it's a free agent for Orcus. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Okay, so what's the idea here? You're supposed to send it to the graveyard from your deck somehow, whatever you use for it, right? Send it with Foolish Burial, send it with Orchestrated Nightmare, whatever you want to do, while you have already made a Dark Link monster, whether it be Galatea or the Orcus Link 1 or whatever it is, right? You just send it. Then it comes back. You get a pop. Well, you get a pop for two cards, one on your side, one on your opponent's side. So like you do have to lose a card yourself. It could also be a free discard. Yeah, it could also be a free discard for the Link 1. And then you have the decision of, hey, will I link this off? Like, do I link climb with this, or do I leave it on the field? Because this can be another pop on your opponent's turn if you just let it, like, stay on the board. Or you could also, like, let's say this card is not part of your first turn combo, but, like, you have Babble up on your opponent's turn. So you can send it on your opponent's turn with Orchestrated Nightmare. And then it comes back, and then you get a pop from it. Like the way I see it, I feel like this card would take the spot that Gizmek Orochi used to have in old Orcus, right? You remember that? Like Gizmek was not usually part of most of your first turn combos. Like you would usually be fine with just your Orcus part, but then in later turns, because Orcus has such a good like recursion, once you have the Orcus cards in rotation, you often ran into the thing of like, hey, what do I send with my Orchestrated Nightmare? Because I already have my Symbol Skeleton in rotation. Like, I don't really need it anymore. So, like, I'm just going to send, like, Gizmek Orochi, which is going to be, like, a free body on future turns. And maybe I can even get the pop effect, right? So, this is, like, a better version of that card. Now, the question is, like, will this be good enough? Will Orcus in general be good enough to see play is another question. And if Orcus sees any play, is this card good enough to be like included in that deck? Which I don't hate the design on this card in the context of Orcus. With Orcus specifically, I think this card makes sense. And I could definitely see trying it. Like I could definitely see trying to play this card in an Orcus deck, and it might end up being good enough. So I think this card is not bad. When I read it first time, I thought like, hey, this is kind of weird, but with Orcus in mind, I think it makes more sense. It's pretty cool. I like it. I actually do like it. All right. And then we have another free agent support. I think this one is for Dragonmaids, or so I've heard. Forbidden Princess of the Fairy Dragons, Philia Regis. Level 8 Dark Dragon Fusion Effect Monster, 3000 attack, 2500 defense. Materials, a Dragon Fusion Monster, plus a level 7 or higher Dragon Monster. Is this like is this a new Super Poly combination unlocked? Is that interesting in any way? Probably not, right? 2 dragons you could already fuse together, probably. But sure. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. During the main phase, quick effect, you can target a card your opponent controls or in their graveyard, banish it, then if you banish the card from the field, return a dragon monster you control to the hand. At the start of your opponent's battle phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can return a dragon monster you control to the hand or extra deck, and if you do, special summon this card. Okay. The first effect, I think, is a very valuable disruption, right? You get to choose a card in the graveyard or field to banish it, and a banish is a pretty good disruption, especially from the graveyard, where this is also free, right? Like when you banish from the field, you have to return one of your own dragons to the hand. If you banish from the graveyard, you don't. So like there's no drawback to just banishing a card from the graveyard. That's pretty nice. Quick effect DD Crow with the option to also banish from field. The second effect, this is the one that makes me think of Dragonmaids, right? Like at the start of your opponent's battle phase, if this card's in your graveyard, return a dragon you control to the hand or extra deck and then special summon this card. Can bounce a Bestial? Can bounce a Bestial. That is true. There are some dragon monsters like Bestials that are nice if you can like recover them back to your hand. That could be nice. My problem is, how do I summon this card? Like, what's the idea here? Because it doesn't include any of its own ways. Like, there's no own mechanic to summon it. Like, it doesn't like cheat the fusion system somehow. You have to actually fuse for this thing. So I'm just wondering, because we've read the new Dragonmaid cards, but it's been a while. How easy would it be for Dragonmaids to summon this card? And also, because whenever you're summoning this thing, you're not summoning, you're skipping a different option. Is this the best option in Dragonmaids to fusion summon into? We never read them. Wait, we didn't? Hold up. I think for context for this one, I think it might be important to check the new Dragonmaid cards. I feel like we did. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I forgot to ever look at the Dragonmaid cards. Happy New Year, Darkor. Appreciate you. Also, Brago, thank you for the 27 months. Happy New Year to you as well. And Fabulol, thank you as well. Hold up. Dragonmaid. Oh, yeah. I don't know if I've read these. Hold up. I don't remember this artwork, at least. I don't think I've looked at this. Dragonmaid Stern. Dark Dragon level 9. You can only use this card name's first and third effect once per turn each. You can discard this card. Special summon a Dragonmaid from grave or banishment. Dragon fusions you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. At the end of the battle phase, you can return this card to your hand, and if you do, special summon a level 4 or lower Dragonmaid from your hand. This seems very underwhelming. Isn't it? Look, I'm not too deep in like I guess this is like is this the big one? Because for Dragonmaids, there's always a small one and a big one, right? But House Dragonmaid, did House Dragonmaid ever have a big counterpart? Or not House, Chamber. Chamber is what I meant. Chamber didn't have a big one, right? Yeah, okay. Dragonmaid Lattice. Light Dragon. Materials, two Dragonmaid monsters with the same attribute, but different levels. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing one each of the above cards from your field and graveyard. Okay, so you have to have one on the field, one in the graveyard. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon a level 4 lower Dragonmaid from your deck. During the standby phase, you can fusion summon a Dragon Fusion from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your field and their banishment into the deck. Okay. All right, so you would make this thing, which is very easy. It summons one from the deck, which is very good. And then you would pass the turn, and during your opponent's standby phase, you have the option of fusion summoning this by recycling some of your things from grave or banishment. And then you have both of these. Or I guess you could also use this as fusion material. You can duality this into that. Sure. I guess if you wanted to play duality in this deck, you could, yeah. But then, like, you're not making... Doesn't Dragonmaid have an Omni Negate fusion monster? True, right? So, like, wouldn't you rather make that one? You can make both? Okay. Dragonmaid. Ooh! Where is it? Dragonmaid monster plus a level 5 or higher dragon monster. Each standby phase, spirit summon a level 9 or lower Dragonmaid from your hand or grave. When your opponent activates a card or effect, negate the activation. If you do that, destroy that card, spirit summon a house dragon. Yeah, you would. This is much better, right? You fuse. Okay, so I guess this card is. I could see this being okay in Dragonmaids for sure. The question is, how often are you gonna not make Shu and make this instead? I guess sometimes you would have the option to make both, in which case it's fine. I'm guessing this could be a solid option that you play in your extra deck as a one-of, just in case it comes up. You know, it could come up, for sure. It's not a bad card. Right? Like, you would play one copy, and then it comes up sometimes. Not that much, but, like, fine. You know, that's the good thing about extra deck options. I'm not entirely sure how tight the space is in the Dragonmaid extra deck. No idea. Sirius is probably more relevant. I mean, there's nothing wrong. If you have the space for it, then you would also play Borreload Furious Dragon. You could also play that one, right? But, like, this is not a bad card, only because there's other options to fuse into. So I could see this being all right. Okay, so we've got a couple of solid support cards today. Nothing too crazy here between these three, but all three. What I like about these is that they make you think, right? They're not, like, obviously broken, but they're also not bad. The more you think about them, you can find applications for them in, like, existing decks without being like, oh, auto include definitely super broken. So I like that. I think these are all cool cards that are realistically playable without being too broken or terrible. So I think it's pretty cool.